Are you overwhelmed by this whole choosing a college thing and deciding basically the trajectory of your life in this one decision? Well, if that sounds like you, you're not alone. I was just in your shoes about a few years ago choosing from 14 different schools, and I want to help you in making your decision. In this video, I'm going to be breaking down the key factors that you want to consider when you're looking at all of your options, the common mistakes to avoid, and the best way to pick the best school for you. So let's get into it. The first thing I want you to consider is the academic programs that this school has. Now, depending on the school that you've picked, you either applied directly with a major or you applied undecided, maybe it's a liberal arts school, and you'll decide later on what your major is. So the first thing I want you to understand is, does this school have the major that I actually want to study? For example, a lot of the schools that I applied for, I wanted to study business, and they didn't have a business program. They only had an economics program, for example. Or for some schools I applied to, I was crazy and I applied for engineering. But when I asked myself, did I actually want to do engineering or did I apply for engineering because I felt like I had to as an Asian? Based on the answer to that response, I was like, no, I want to do business. And that helped me decide, okay, the actual schools that I really do want to consider are the schools that have a business program. So first, you want to make sure, does the school that you're looking at have the major or program that you're actually interested in majoring in? That's number one. Number two, once you've identified the schools that have the program or major that you actually want to study or major in, it's important to look at the quality of that program. Not all programs are created the same. And how you can gauge this is, number one, yes, you can look at rankings, but rankings aren't everything. You want to look at, number two, the classes maybe that are offered, the catalogs that you can see online. You want to look at the curriculum. How do they actually teach the program? Do they require you to take all of these gen ed classes? Are you able to dive right into the major? And think about what is important for you. Do you want a well-rounded education or do you not care about that? You only want to get in, get out, get your degree as fast as possible. So you'll have to ask yourself these questions. What is important to me? Another way you can gauge the caliber of the academic program is to look at the alumni. And I think a sneaky way to do this is to go on LinkedIn and search up, for example, UT Austin computer science, and look at kids that have listed in their education section, UT Austin computer science, and see what kinds of jobs or internships that they're getting, what experience they're getting, and compare it to any other school that you're looking up and see what kinds of tangible experiences people who have gone through this program are getting, to kind of gauge the opportunities that you could get if you went to this same program. So number one, you want to look at the academic program. Do you really want to go to a school that doesn't even have the major that you want to study, even if it's a super prestigious name? Probably not. The second thing I want you to make sure you consider is the location. And there are several factors to this. So this could be the actual location of the place. Is it in a big city? Is it in the suburbs? Is it rural? Depending on you, you want to ask yourself, do you want that big city vibe? Are you okay with being in a small town? Do you get bored easily? If you do, maybe being in a small town is not the best for you. If you get overwhelmed easily, if you maybe like being able to get places without a car, USC and LA might not be the best place for you if you don't have a car, if you don't like that big city feel. So you really have to ask yourself, am I more of a big city kind of person? Do I like the rural vibe? Will I get bored? That's one important thing. And location kind of will determine what you do on the weekend, on the weekdays, what you do in your free time. Are there opportunities for the things that you want to do? If you love being near water, you might not love being in the desert. The other thing you want to consider that you might not think about is weather. If you come from somewhere sunny, like, I don't know, Texas, California, you're used to the good weather, and maybe you get into Harvard or Boston College or somewhere up north, be prepared for that weather change. Are you ready for that significantly different, really cold winters? Or maybe you're going into the desert. Are you ready for the super hot times of Arizona or Texas? It's really hot in the summer and fall and it doesn't start cooling down later on. So weather can be a pretty big factor. Are you ready for that? You will need to prepare yourself to get clothes. Now, I don't want this to be the only thing that, oh, this place doesn't have the weather, but that can definitely change your mood when you're going through school, when you have to walk to your classes, when it's snowing, when there's like a blizzard. Think about these things. They shouldn't be the only deciding factor, but they should help you think about, is this place the right thing for me, because it's not enough for the academic program to be enough, because you're so much more than your academics. You're going to have a life outside of school, and you want to make sure you're enjoying your life as a whole instead of just whatever you're studying. The other part about location I want you to think about is, how far are you going to be from home? Now, some kids would love to go super far away from home. Some people want to stay close to home. Think about your connection with family. It's also going to change your costs. The farther you are from home, the more of a hassle that is just to get your stuff up there, for you to visit home during the holidays, for your family to visit you. If you're super close to family, consider how that would change your life in terms of, does that mean I'm going to live at home? That would change your whole experience, living at home versus living on campus, depending on the school. But I think in general still holds true, is really going to change that experience. Being immersed on campus is going to be so much different than being at home, going back home after classes when your friends can hang out after classes, hang out into the wee hours of night, and you're at home and you're a commuter. So that will affect how you make your decision in terms of how far the school is actually located from home. Is being located close to home going to mean your parents are going to visit you a lot? How does that make you feel? So those are all things that you want to consider. The third thing that I think is very important to consider, and for me possibly is one of the most important that I place number one, is your cost and financial aid. How much is it actually going to cost to go to this college? And as I'm sure you know, some colleges have super high sticker prices, but offer really good scholarship packages. So make sure you look at, or financial aid packages. So make sure you look at the net cost of, what the sticker price is, minus any financial aid scholarships that you can get to the ultimate price. And I do want to mention, it's also important to consider not only the tuition of whatever school it is that you're going to, but also to look at everything else. The cost of living is going to be very different in California versus in Texas or some other random city. The cost of books, the further you are from home, that's also going to increase costs. And I don't want that to be the only thing that turns you, this place is cheaper by a few $1,000s, so let me go to this cheaper school instead of the slightly more expensive school. I think it's very important to weigh how much a school costs and the value that it gives you. But I want you to consider the cost of paying full tuition for an Ivy League, or getting a scholarship, maybe a full ride scholarship to a non-Ivy League or even a state school that is just as good in your program, or is still a very good option. Is that Ivy League worth the extra 60, 70K more per year just for the name? It's also important to consider as, for example, an out-of-state student, if you're looking at an in-state school, what some people don't realize is maybe the first year you'll pay out-of-state tuition, but once you can establish residency after that first year, you could pay in-state tuition for the next several years, depending on how many years you end up taking to finish your degree. That state school that is out-of-state for you now could drop from 50K, 60K down to like 10, 20K. So it could be a lot cheaper. So that's another thing to consider. Cost is super important. Again, not the only thing you should decide on, but if you have two similar programs, and when I talk about programs, I'm talking about academic programs, maybe one has a super great name, one has, not as great a name, but it's still a great school that people recognize. Is it worth it to pay a lot more for that higher name, higher prestige school than to save a lot of money going to a school that is just as good in the academic program? Maybe you've searched up the alumni and they're getting pretty much the same opportunity. So that's something to consider. And finally, the fourth thing I want you to consider is campus culture. Outside of academics, the academic program, does this school have what you want to make your social life as fulfilling and as happy as it can for you? Does this place feel like home? If you're super into Greek life, you probably don't want to go to a school that doesn't have Greek life. If you're super into a specific sport, you want to make sure that the school that you're looking at has a sports program. Maybe you're into the arts. You want to make sure that you can make a life for yourself on this campus, that you can find a community of people that you like. Do you like smaller communities? Do you want a super big state school where you can meet a whole bunch of people? Or do you want that more homey vibe of that smaller school? I would say the best way to get a gauge of this is to probably go visit the school, which Not everybody has the financial capabilities to do that, but I definitely recommend if you can, if you're seriously considering a school, to go visit. If you can't visit, I would say a great proxy is to talk to students who currently go to that school and kind of get the vibe of what it feels like to talk to them, because it can give you an idea of what the student body is going to be like just based on the vibes alone. And I would talk to several students, and I would say maybe like a ninja tip is to talk to people who are in your major that you are interested in, because those are probably going to be the people that you surround yourself with. And then I think a great tip to ask them is ask them why they ended up choosing the school, how they feel about the culture. So make sure to analyze outside of the academics, also the non-academic stuff, and see if you can envision yourself living a life there if the culture is a fit for you. All right, so now that I've gone through the key factors that I want you to consider as you're going through and making your decision, I now want to talk about 3 of the top mistakes that I want you to avoid. And they might seem obvious, but when you're in it and you're emotionally charged and all of your friends are going through it at the same time and you're thinking about the unknown, it's very easy to lose track of these. So the first one that I want you to avoid is following your friends. Do not choose a school based on where your friends are going because you want to stay close to them. Yes, friendships are important, but there's several reasons why following a friend to college is a very bad idea. Number 1, college is the place for new experiences. That doesn't mean say bye to your current friends and never talk to them again. I think you should definitely keep your high school, middle school, elementary, whatever. Keep your old friends, maintain those connections. It's so crucial and important to maintain those connections. But in college, you also want to go out of your bubble, meet new people, try new things. And if you follow a friend to a college just because you want to be with them, that is going to restrict you, especially if you're going to a school that you're not super excited about and you only followed them to the school to be with them. That's not going to be good because they're going to be there. Maybe if your friendship falls apart, which hopefully it doesn't, but if it does and you don't like this school, there's nothing for you at this school anymore. You're going to be in a place that you didn't want to be, thinking about what if about another school that you were super excited about. Plus, if you stay attached to this friend at the college, it's going to restrict you from reaching out and meeting new people because it's just safe to stay with people that you already know. Now, that's not to say everybody's going to do that. Maybe you have a friend and you can expand out and find new people, but more often than not, it's just safer to stay with what you know, and that's going to limit your opportunities and the growth that you could have gotten going to a college that is truly a good fit for you in terms of the academics, in terms of the culture, the location, everything about the school itself, rather than following your friend somewhere just to be with them for the next 4 years. The second mistake that I want you to avoid is to ignore your gut feeling. Make sure you are listening to your gut. When you look at a school, it might seem like all of the facts and figures point to this school. The academic program is great. They're giving you a full ride scholarship. They're really sending you messages, letters, mails, calls. Current students are calling you. You're getting a whole bunch of swag. Like, they really want you to go to this school. Everything seems great. Everything is pointing there, but there's a feeling that you don't belong there, that this isn't the school for you, that there's another school that's a better fit. So for example, and this is nothing against Texas A&M, this is just my own experience, or like for example, Texas Tech or another Texas State school. These are just based on my own examples. Like, these are schools that I got full rides to. I could have gone for free. They had great business programs, but it just wasn't for me. You know, I visited it and it just didn't feel like my vibe. I enjoyed UT much more. So that's just an example. You know, maybe this school has more prestige, the name is bigger, but it just doesn't feel quite right for you. Don't ignore that gut feeling, because a lot of the times you know more than you think you know, and there's something in the subconscious that is telling you this school is not right for you, that is maybe not conscious on your head, but there's something in you that tells you this is not right. Don't ignore that gut feeling. And finally, the third mistake that I want people to avoid is to go pick a school based on prestige only. Yes, Ivy Leagues are impressive. Stanford, MIT, all of these schools are great. And if you got in, like, pat yourself on the back. That's awesome. Congratulations. I'm so happy for you that you got in, and that's such a great ego boost. But when you're picking a school, don't let the name of the school be the only thing that has you deciding, oh, I got into Harvard. Let me go to Harvard. There's so much more than just the name. Like I mentioned, the academic program, the scholarships you can get. Is the culture fit for you? I know several people who, got into Ivy Leagues and turned those Ivy Leagues down for either a state school or some other school. I turned down Vanderbilt to go to a state school, even though I had scholarships at both that would cover all the money. I felt for me, UT Austin, I would get to study computer science and business, which were things that I wanted to study. Vanderbilt, I would have been a biomedical engineer, which that would have thrown me on a whole different other path. I know somebody else who got into Harvard, was about to go to Harvard, got a full ride to UT, ended up going to UT. So there's so much more than just the name. What is the right school for somebody else might not be the right school for you. Maybe this Ivy League has a really great name, but doesn't have the degree that you want to study. If you want to study business, a lot of these schools don't have a business program. Yes, they have economics. And if you're passionate about economics, you can probably get the same job opportunities after a business degree versus after economics degree. A lot of people go into consulting. A lot of people go into investment banking, or a lot of other different business opportunities that you can get coming out of economics or coming out of business. But if what you want is a business degree, you probably shouldn't go and get an economics degree from an Ivy League, even though it has a great name. So I want you to consider beyond the prestige. Prestige is for other people. Picking a school is for you. So I want you to consider what are the factors that are most important to you and pick a school based on the key factors I listed at the beginning of the video versus just prestige alone. So now that we've gone through the key factors, the mistakes, how do you actually make this decision? Well, first thing, ask yourself, do some deep thinking and really understand what is important to you of the key factors that I listed, the academic program, the location, the cost, the culture. What is important to you? How would you rank these? For example, for me, cost mattered a lot to me, and the academic program mattered a lot to me. The other two were a little less important. So it's important to ask yourself, what do you care about? Maybe you really care about campus life, or you really care about location. You really want to get away from home, or you really want to stay close to home. So ask yourself, what is important to you? Rank those, and then look at the schools that rank highest on the priorities for you. The second thing is to make sure that you're actually researching thoroughly. Make sure you understand all of these schools, all of the options, the academics, the costs, the extracurriculars available. Make sure you're doing your research to really understand what you would be getting yourself into for all of these schools. And then 3, make sure you're going through and listing the pros and cons for each of these options. Now, depending on how many schools you have, this might be a very long list. Feel free to make a pros and cons list for every single one, but I would recommend potentially listing it out to maybe your top 3 or 5, your top several options. Once you've eliminated most of your options based on your identified list of priorities, then look at your top options and make a pros and cons list for each to help you make the decision. And finally, number 4, just trust yourself, make a decision, don't look back. No regrets. I like to live my life, no regrets. Once you've made a decision, it's an educated decision. You followed your gut, you did the research, you made the pros and cons list, you understand why you chose the school that you chose, and it's probably a great choice for you. Everything that happens after that is just, for you to make the best of. Every school is going to have its pros and cons. You're going to have the great days, you're going to have the bad days, but you got to make the best out of it. And I trust that you will make the correct decision for you if you follow the 4 key factors in deciding, ranking them, going through making a pros and cons list, researching and understanding the schools, the options, what is available to you at all of the options. I believe in you that you will make the right choice for you. Choosing a college is definitely a big deal, but don't let it overwhelm you. And I hope this video helped you in deciding, how do I figure out what college do I go to? If this video helped you at all in any way, please give me a like if you feel you are willing to do so. Also, please subscribe if you'd like to. That would help me a lot, and share with somebody who is also trying to make the decision. Are you looking forward to anything in college? I'm sure you are. Leave me a comment below letting me know what it is that you're looking forward to most in college, or let me know any thoughts or questions that you have on anything that I said in this video. As always, thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one. Have a fantabulous day.